Running up the score.
Jerry Napoleonello.
The Cowboys made 2 mistakes in the last 3 years. One was letting Dak take over for Romo and not having Romo come back in. And 2 was releasing Des Bryant.
Superstition, screw that. Let's pick this bad boy up and walk it around the ice.
Kevin Donlin.
The NFL, like every league, is a business. And in a business, you have a job. And let me tell you something. You always have a boss. No matter who you are, you have a boss when you're in the organization. The New York Jets, you know what they need to do with their second round pick? They need to just start taking it and lighting it up on fire.
This is Running Up the Score, your one-stop spot for all things sports. Join in on the conversation by calling in at 605-562-7085. Now here's your hosts, Jerry Napoleonello and Kevin Donlin.
All right, it's time to run up the score. The podcast is back. We're back after about a week hiatus. A lot of work-related stuff getting in the way and, life itself in the way. But we're back. Coming off two Islander games that I've gone to. We both went to the last one.
Yep.
We don't want to talk about it.
Not at all. Folks, this jersey being worn right now is on the basis that the New York Islanders are going to the playoffs. They didn't clinch against Toronto, but they had already clinched. Yes. And obviously the Toronto game last night was a brutal one. John Tavares getting the game-winning goal. Definitely don't want to go into this too much, but for the New York Islanders, at this point, it's playoff time. There's 2 games remaining. You got to find a way to win these games so we can hold on to home ice. And, obviously Pittsburgh has been playing great hockey. So, nonetheless, whether we win or lose, we'll be seeing the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round.
It's just it's a matter of who's going to be home, who will be away.
Exactly.
So that's definitely a problem for me, at least. I feel like we need home ice against the Penguins big time, but we're not here to talk about hockey. No. We're here to talk about baseball. Baseball's back. It's been back. We weren't here last week to talk about the first week, so we'll get into it now. And being that we're in the New York area, it's easy for us to talk about. Both of us are Yankee fans, so we're going to get into the Yankees and the Mets. And right off the bat, the Mets doing the Mets stuff in the beginning of the season. Their usual get hot in the beginning of the season. I know they'll tamper off towards the end of the season. That's just the Mets way. I don't want to bash the Mets or anything.
There's no reason to.
I might hurt my Kevin's feelings over here.
Well, it's because the New York Mets and their fans they have reasons to be optimistic, and the New York Mets, I think their foundation is a positive one. I think they have a great 1-2 with pitching, and I think it goes beyond that. I think all of their starters are very efficient, and the talk has always been with the New York Mets on that lineup, but now we're seeing names emerge for the New York Mets. Obviously every Met fan will know who I'm referring to here, and that's Pete Alonso.
Is it not Peter? It's Pete.
Did I say Peter?
No. You said Pete. You said it the right way.
Okay.
That was just like news in the beginning of the season. It was like, well, Pete Alonso wants to be named Pete and not Peter.
God.
Yeah.
Well, so. I mean, that's an article I definitely skipped over on the basis that I didn't care about that. But this kid has been unbelievable, and I was actually able to watch him for the first time last night. I saw some highlights. Obviously, I was at the New York Islander game, and I saw a home run by Pete Alonso, and it was the first time I'd actually watched him swing a bat, because I did not know about this kid. I had heard his spring training was unreal.
Yeah.
Which you hear about from a lot of young players. You know, a lot of young players will have great spring training, but when the real deal comes, they start to fade away. And it looks like this kid has just kept the hot streak going. Hopefully, he keeps it going on the just for the sake of every Met fan. That's what they were missing. They needed a big time hitter in that lineup. And a lot of people thought it was coming from the likes of Bryce Harper, Machado, and I've seen fans get all upset with the New York Mets over the basis of them not spending money on any of these big names. But we've talked about on this show over and over about how those contracts are just getting out of hand, and I think the ownership for the New York Mets made a great decision in not going after either one of those players. Guys will come; they come and go all day. Baseball is a different, breed of sport. It's really not like the other major sports on the basis that achieving 30% of the time is considered a Hall of Fame career. Yeah, exactly. That's probably the best way to put it. It's to be able to succeed 30% and consider yourself a successful baseball player is quite remarkable, and it really is what differentiates that sport from everything else. Yeah. Except if you're a pitcher, because then you need 100% success on every start. And even with that, there's a lot of starters out there, even in the beginning of the season, I've seen, and guys like Chris Sale, struggling early on. His second start is tonight as well. But, going back to the New York Mets, obviously their starters have been efficient. Jacob deGrom is an amazing pitcher. It was a great contract extension for the New York Mets. I think it was a very smart move by this team.
Some people questioned it because of just the fact that they had him under contract. They had control of him for, I think, another year and a half, 2 years or whatever. So that's
he's earned it. He's definitely earned this extra money at this point.
If you get to that point, I know Met fans were questioning it a little bit. Some were questioning, some loved it. I actually thought it was a good move for the Mets. The problem with
it's not $300 million. I'll tell you that, folks.
But the problem with it is that, if you were to wait, say you wait till he's a free agent, you might not sign him. I don't know if he's going to be like, oh, you know what, I want to sign back with the Mets. Because, first of all, you don't know what your organization is going to be like at that point. A lot can change in a year. A lot can change in 2 years. So that's one thing. Two is, you know what? If he hasn't won anything, he might not want to come back, like I just said. So it's better off you got it done now. Get it done now. You got Jacob deGrom for how many years was the contract?
Was it 7?
I think it was 7. So, I mean, it's crazy because now you're starting to see a lot more, guys getting signed to extensions. Acuna from the Braves just got a $100 million contract. These contracts are going out like wildfire right now. Right. So it's just definitely
overall. I think that's the way you need to spend your money to a guy that only got a single digit amount of wins last season.
Well, yeah,
and he held the ERA, I think, it was close to a record. It was definitely the best ERA that baseball has seen in the last minimum 15 years. I mean, that's how good he was. Team. Yeah. And, that can't go unnoticed. And, for the New York Mets, I think it was a very smart move. That is an ace. He is by far one of the best players in baseball right now.
I would say the top 5 pitcher in the league right now.
Absolutely.
So,
no doubt.
With the Mets, obviously we're going to get into the Yankees now. But, just the Mets are hot. Yeah, they started off the season pretty well. As you were saying, Pete Alonso, he's batting .412 so far in his first 17 at-bats, not including today. So that will probably change today. But, Conforto's batting .353. You got guys like Rosario. I mean, he's a little low at .235. But,
you just got to find ways to score runs. With the pitching they have, you got to find a way to get 3 or 4 runs a game. That was a big issue for the New York Mets over 162 games last season. And so far in the early going, they're finding ways to score runs, and right now it's leading to wins.
So far, what I've taken, one of the biggest differences between the Mets and the Yankees this year, and I apologize if I sound nasally, because I got a sinus infection. So we're just going to continue with that. But I think the biggest comparison, because I can hear myself and I'm like, wow, I sound like crap.
I've been there.
Yeah. So I can't breathe out of my nose, so it's all just it's mouth breathing right now. So right now, the biggest comparison, the biggest difference between the Mets and the Yankees so far, I think is batting average with runners in scoring position. The Mets are third in the league with runners in scoring position, batting .375, while the Yankees are 26th, and they're batting 176. So that's been the issue with the Yankees the last 3, 4, 5 years. They can't get the hit when they need it. The problem with them has been, and pretty much always has been, is that they rely on the long ball way too much. And, the other thing with the Yankees is injuries. And I think that's going to be the moral of this podcast so far, is just injuries. And the Yankees have a lot of them. And I mean a lot of them. Started in the beginning of the season, and it's still trickling down.
Well, see, it's just like that for every team. And this is what we talked about even when we mentioned about the New York Mets having, good starts. And obviously the Yankees, slow to start. But when it comes to the New York Yankees and their injury struggles right now, that's just the basis of a long season. And whether it was 3 games into the season like we're talking about right now, or if it came in, at game number 90, in which it could have been much more detrimental. So when it comes down to injuries, every team gets them. There's no excuse. The next man up has to find a way to get 30%, get a 30% success rate. And, right now I think the big difference with the New York Yankees and with the New York Mets would be the pitching. And, pitching doesn't slump. I've always been a big fan of, a team that's going to go out there and get dominant pitching. And if you look at all of the previous, World Series winners, they had big-time pitching. I literally cannot think of a team in the last 15 years that didn't have legit pitching to go along with, a successful lineup. Hitting slumps. It always will. The New York Yankees are batting 176 with runners in scoring position. I don't consider that as an issue of, the Yankees can't get a hit with runners in scoring position. I consider it, okay, they're slumping when it counts. And that's the thing with hitting. And it's always been like that. 30%, folks. That's exactly what the success rate is for the best major league players. A lot of them are a lot less. We're talking 25%. So with hitting with hitting always slumping and pitching never slumping, I've always been a big believer that you need to go out there and get the pitching. It has been an issue for the New York Yankees over the years, finding consistent pitching.
I don't think their pitching is the problem this year so far. I mean,
well, the bullpen speaks for itself.
It's 4 games in. We're in the 5th one now, but I don't think it's their based. Starting pitching is obviously not their forte on this team, but they haven't been bad, is what I'm saying. They're not the reason why we lost 2 out of 3 from Baltimore. When you look at it, and I'm not even going to blame it on injuries, because we lost a few guys in those games, between Giancarlo Stanton and Miguel Andujar. Miguel Andujar, that's the one that worries me, because now it's a tear in the labrum. Surgery is on the table. They don't know. They want to do it conservatively. So, we'll see what ends up happening with Andujar. I'm glad that we got LeMahieu. LeMahieu is a great fielding, basically utility infielder. And the guy can hit. That's the best thing about it. You get a utility infielder or a utility player altogether, and they lack in the hitting department. And a lot of people were, kind of upset that Torreyes left. But you know what? I would exchange LeMahieu for I would exchange Torreyes for LeMahieu any day. So I'm glad that we have him. But just the injuries have been piling up for the Yankees. You have Andujar now. Dellin Betances hasn't even started the season yet. Didi Gregorius won't be back until after the All-Star break.
I still can't believe that Jacoby Ellsbury is hurt.
Oh my God, that's a joke, everybody.
Oh man.
Luis Severino. That one I'm very scared about. To be honest with you, I'm being totally honest with you.
This is what I mean when I tell you
that's a very scary injury. And if we lose Severino,
we're in trouble.
Big trouble. Because you know what? I think if they were to find out that Luis Severino is out for the season, God forbid, knock on wood, everybody, please. If you got wood around you, I got it right here.
He did do it, folks.
I did. The thing with Severino, if we lose him for the season, I think you got to go out and get Dallas Keuchel right away. The fact that he's still out there, I think you got to get him. So that will be interesting. CC Sabathia is suspended for the first 5 games because of throwing at a guy last year. I think was it last year that he needed the amount of innings to get money, and he threw at somebody.
I
missed
honestly
it. I think it was last year. I think this is the one that they were talking about. It came down to his last start. I think he needed 5 innings to get to his mark for his incentive in his contract. He was going to get I think $550,000 or whatever it was. Because one of our guys got hit earlier in the game, he threw at back at the other team, and he got kicked out of the game. So he lost out on that money. Yankees still paid him because that's just the kind of organization that they are. But
one that makes money.
Yes.
Is that what you're going with that? I'm confused by that.
Ben Heller, really doesn't matter for him. But Aaron Hicks is out. Jordan Montgomery, which we could probably use right now, but he's having Tommy John surgery, so goodbye for that. Just all together, you look at it, LeMahieu threw 8 at-bats, is batting .500. He's by far, the better of everybody in the lineup. Judge is batting .333, so that's decent, through 15 at-bats. Gleyber Torres batting .313. Sanchez batting better than he did last year, .250 right now. Stanton .250.
.250 after 3 games. Ugh.
Oh, dude, he was batting under 100.
I know.
Last year at this point.
I think.
So I'll take the .250.
I think overall for the New York Yankees, and obviously we talk about with Severino being such a big injury, but the Yankees, their bats are going to have to be there. There's no doubt about it that they have one of the most intimidating lineups in all of baseball.
Yeah.
And that team needs to perform. That's what it really comes down to. There really isn't much. That's the difference between the New York Mets and the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees are expected in that ballpark and the visiting ballparks they get to face too. In Baltimore, Boston, these are hitter-friendly ballparks. This is the American League. You have a DH. You're expected to score runs. Now, the New York Mets play a different style.
Yeah.
And you got the pitching into the lineup. The pitcher's in the lineup every game. Aside from interleague and all, we can go into that, at another date. But
don't worry, the
New
DH will be in the NL soon.
No, of course. But right now, the New York Mets are playing a different style of play where they're not expected to put up insane amount of runs this season. But they're expected to get good pitching. And they're expected to find ways to win and find ways to score. A lot of small ball added to that and to make sure to try to pick up wins. And the New York Yankees are all about that power. You're not going to see the Yankees, it'll be once in a blue moon that you see the New York Yankees bunt with first and second and nobody out. Yeah. The New York Yankees are going to be swinging. You got Aaron Judge coming up with first and second. He's not bunting, folks. Gary Sanchez, he's not bunting. None of these players are bunting, aside from maybe a Brett Gardner. And then, for the New York Mets, we all know that Robbie Cano isn't bunting, is he either? So, but he's in the right spot of that lineup, and he's probably the one and only guy in that lineup that probably won't bunt for that team throughout the entire season.
Yeah.
You know, the New York Mets are going to find ways to try to get runs. They know what kind of pitching they have. You know, Syndergaard, there's no questioning how good he is. There's no questioning how good Jacob deGrom is. And the fact that they have those two right now makes a big impact. Now, I know it's early on in the season, and, you know, I'm not even a Met fan. So to tell you that the excitement there, every Met fan will tell you right now that the excitement is not there because they're used to this. They've seen this before. Because all of a sudden we get to game number 65 and the injuries start coming into play. The kind of injuries the New York Yankees are dealing with 3 games in is what the New York Mets will be dealing with 90 games in. And that's if the New York Yankees aren't still dealing with injuries at that point. That's the grind of a baseball season. And that's what makes baseball what it is. You know, injuries happen. It's part of it. It's part of every sport. You know, you're going to lose good players. And obviously, the training staffs on all these teams, they're amazing. And, you know, they probably don't get enough credit, but they're unbelievable what they're able to do, get these guys back from serious injuries. You know, Tommy John surgery is no joke. Yeah. And it's happening more and more. I honestly don't want to really go off tangent here, but I fault it to even at younger ages, and you got these children throwing curveballs at a young age. Now, I had a coach when I was younger. You know, Little League, you know, when you're playing. And he wouldn't let any of us throw curveballs. Now, you watch every year, the Little League World Series comes on, and these kids are throwing curveballs left and right. I can't remember a single pitcher that played in the Little League World Series that I watch every night of the week now, playing major leagues. It happens to hitters. That one kid from, what was that kid's name? He was on the Mets last year. Could still be on them. I wouldn't even know.
Steven Matz?
No. He's a hitter, and he played in the Little League World Series, and then he wound up playing in the major leagues.
Oh, Todd Frazier.
Todd Frazier, yeah. He played for the Yankees as well.
Yeah.
But you'll never see a pitcher from Little League World Series, pitching in the major leagues. And it's on the basis that you're destroying your arm. Because when you're 13 years old, your arm and your body isn't fully developed. So to have a snap action with the curveball is really not good for your arm. And this goes back to kids when they're younger and they're just playing around with their friends and they want to throw different pitches. Everybody wants to throw an amazing curveball. I mean, I did when I was younger, and I'm pretty sure I'm not alone. And I'm not trying to go off on a tangent here, but it's a big reason why you're seeing a lot more Tommy John surgery now. You know, people got to learn that you need to take care of these arms, especially when you're paying them $137 million or somewhere along the lines of that. And right, isn't that what Jacob deGrom wound up getting? Or was it 173? So, yeah. It was 173 or 137. Either way, a lot of money. Yeah. Got to take care of that arm. So, you know, when it comes down to it, the New York Mets have to try to find ways to stay healthy. Same with the New York Yankees. It's really the basis of both of these teams being successful this year. And I certainly expect both of these teams to be very good. I still don't think that NL East, there is one of 4 teams that could win that division. I can't tell you who's going to win that division. 3 games in, I have no idea. I do know who isn't going to win it, but I can tell you there's 4 other teams in there.
The Mets aren't going to win it.
You don't think the Mets have any shot?
You know what? It's a tough division. You know, when you look at the Phillies first off.
No, Phillies are very good.
Very good.
Washington's very good. Atlanta's decent. Getting better, and so are the Mets.
I think Atlanta probably will be the best team in this division eventually, just because they're the young talent that they have. I think if they get some pitching to go along with,
right now they don't have that.
No, I know,
and that's what keeps this wide open.
But they hit the crap out of the ball. That's the one thing with the Braves.
It starts with Acuna, like you mentioned earlier.
You know, you look at that whole team. They're a young team. They're a very good, talented young team. I think if they add the pitching, that team, you know, sky's the limit. But the Phillies just have the juice right now, really. You know, I think the Phillies end up winning this division.
I really think it's the only division that there's 4 possible chances of a different team winning.
Marlins aren't going to win that division.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the one team that's excluded from this, but the other 4 all have a shot.
Yeah.
It's a lot different in the AL East right now. It's literally down to 2 teams.
Yeah, it's going to be.
I mean,
Boston
Toronto has
and
fallen
Yankees,
off.
but I think
Baltimore fallen off, even though they found a way to beat the Yankees twice. Amazing.
we don't talk
Pretty
about
funny.
that.
Yeah, but still, it happens. And it's just a part of the grind of the season. What? Things like that are going to happen. That's what makes baseball baseball.
You can't be worried.
176 the first 3 games of the season. That's what happens. Nothing you do.
The thing is about baseball, it's not football where they play 16 games.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hockey. It's not even basketball.
It's every day.
They're hockey and basketball are close. At 82 games.
Still,
but
it's every single day.
But still, that's not even close. That's half of what the baseball players play. So
they play every day. That's what I keep referencing.
Yeah,
the guys are going to miss games because they play every single day.
Yeah.
There's no days off. There's once in a blue moon.
That's why a game in March against Baltimore Orioles
is irrelevant.
You can't really worry about it.
No, of course not.
It's not going to come back to hurt us.
But a win in March also
the game
could be a big deal as well.
The games,
it goes both ways.
When you're looking at with Baltimore, we're not going to see them at the end. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. You don't worry about them. The games early in the season that you worry about are the Boston games. Those are the games that you it comes down to that last series against them. Who's going to win the division? Oh, I don't know. Well, their record is, because we play them 19 times in a season. You got to look at that kind of stuff. So, I'm not worried about the Baltimore. I'm worried about, the injuries. That's what I'm worried about. But you have, like Kevin said, you got it's the next man up. And right now, this is the absolute perfect time for the one guy that I've been wanting to have a chance with the Yankees. It's Clint Frazier. You got to come in. You got to show your worth. And if you can, you might be able to stay. You might be able to stay this time. Stay healthy. And maybe we'll see. He doesn't like the nickname Red Thunder anymore, but, we got to figure something out.
He played for
Catboy something,
Or we could just call him by his name.
Clint.
I mean that also works.
Yeah.
I don't care what we call him as long as the kid comes up there and finds a way to be successful.
Listen, he showed promise. He's shown a lot of promise. He was in a big trade also. We traded him. We traded for him in the Chapman deal or something. The Andrew Miller deal with Cleveland. So he's in high regards. It's kind of a tough situation because he was before the Stanton deal, obviously. So he thought he had a move. He had an open spot there. So I think if he stays up, he works his ass off and plays well. He had a rough spring. I will say that, rough spring, but the kid's got it. He really does got it, and that's why I've said, I want this guy to get a chance, and he hasn't gotten a chance yet because every time he gets a chance, he ends up getting hurt. So as long as he doesn't run into any walls or falls down the stairs or something, whatever, I think it's a good chance for Clint Frazier, and again, don't worry about the losses to Baltimore if you're a Yankees fan.
No.
There's nothing to worry about. Worry about the 176 with runners in scoring position.
And the injuries. That's really what it comes down to.
But you know what? Stanton's going to be back.
Of course.
We're crossing our fingers on Luis Severino.
Absolutely.
It sucks to lose, Andujar, like I said.
Even
but
guys like Didi.
You know what?
I mean, these are guys we're all going to need.
Didi's going to be back. I'm not even worried about. You know what? He's going to be primed for the playoffs too. He's going to be back after the All-Star break. He'll get some rehab starts, and then all of a sudden he'll be back.
Just find a way to grind. It's a 162 game season. We are 3 days in, folks, and we'll have coverage. Over the next couple of weeks.
That's the other thing.
The New York Yankees, the New York Mets.
I wanted to talk about. We're going to break some news here.
Yes.
First off, breaking news: AAF folding. But we'll talk about that on Saturday. See the tease.
Nice.
We'll talk about that on Saturday.
I like it.
But I'm going to break even more news, and that's with our show. How we've been doing the podcast for a couple of weeks now, where we do the 2 days for SportsCastr. Well, those 2 days for SportsCastr, being that it's baseball season, we're going to, after the NHL playoffs, we're going to turn it into 1 day Yankee podcast, 1 day Met podcast. I know, me talking Mets. That's it's.
Try not to be biased.
I'm like trembling saying that, but you know what? I'm gonna do it.
There it is.
And also, both of us are wearing blue. We posted on Instagram. It is Autism Awareness Day. April is Autism Awareness Month. So light it up blue. Wear something blue today.
100%.
Even though it's 8:00 at night, at least in the New York area.
Go throw on a blue sock. Do something.
Yeah, something. Just for awareness and just understanding autism. So, all together. We're both wearing blue for that fact.
Absolutely.
So, like I said, light it up blue. April
100%.
is Autism Awareness Month. So, just think about it. But as I said, Yankees Mets podcast Tuesday and Thursday. We will give you the dates. The days for each when we get to that point. But we still got playoff hockey. And
college basketball. There's a lot more going on right now. I think as we get close to the summer,
the not so fantastic,
and it's really just strictly baseball on, and I think everyone can understand that. And that's the kind of mindset we're going with. We just want to give you, the audience, a little insight on what our plans are going forward, and that being, Jerry said it all right there, and that's absolutely what we plan on doing.
And again, I apologize for the muffled sound.
I appreciate you apologizing. That's very good.
Like literally take,
Thank you.
A plug and put it up your nose, and that's what I'm feeling right now.
Try being right next to him, folks.
I know, I feel bad for him. But we'll be back Thursday. We're gonna be talking, whatever else breaks, I guess.
100%.
Actually, we're gonna get into the not so Fantastic Four.
I know. That's crazy. Yeah, that's literally, folks. Going into Thursday, that's gonna be a college basketball and the amazing Final Four. Yeah. And by amazing, I mean just 0.04% of brackets in the entire United States called this Final Four, and we'll talk more about it on Thursday.
Yeah, so let's go Yankees. Let's go Islanders. How about that?
There we go.
Big time.
It's playoff time. I don't care about the Yankees' fifth game of the season. I care about the New York Islanders.
Hey, how about the Capitals losing too? That would be nice.
Hasn't happened much in the last 2 months.
What is it? Montreal is playing them. I think Montreal's playing them.
They're probably
so. They got them tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So we have to beat Florida. Washington has to lose to Montreal, please. Fingers crossed. And then we smack up Washington in the last game of the season.
Cross up a couple of fingers because it's going to take a little bit. It's going to take a group effort for that one.
Touche. But that will do it for the podcast. Again, go to SeatGiant.com. I know I didn't say it earlier, so I don't know why I say it again. But SeatGiant.com. Type in RUTS Sports. You got to bring some laughter into it, you know what I mean? Especially with me sounding like a lift. But, again, Autism Awareness Day, April 2nd. But that will do it. We got a lot of breaking news, so be ready for it. And, that'll do it. I'm Jerry.
I'm Kevin.
Beat Breezy.
Beat Breezy.
You've been listening to Running Up the Score on SportsCastr Live. We run up the score on sports radio. For more Running Up the Score, go follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at RUTS Sports.